"Ma'am, that elevator is for executives only." The young man didn't even look up from his phone when he said it, just held out his hand like a crossing guard and stepped in front of her mop bucket. The way he said "ma'am," drawn out, dry, dismissive, cut sharper than any insult. Denise glanced up at him, slow and steady, her gloved hand tightening slightly around the steel handle of her mop. Her back ached, same as it did every morning at 5:42 a.m. Her knees creaked with every floor she climbed. But her spine, that stayed straight. She didn't say a word, just pressed the pH button with one of those blue nitrile gloves they all pretended not to see. The elevator doors didn't close. "Maintenance isn't allowed up there," he said, shifting now, his tone more annoyed than authoritative. "That's partner-level access. Unless you're delivering something for catering." She blinked at him. Once, twice. Then slowly pulled out a folded piece of paper from her cart supply pouch. The man's eyes narrowed as she handed it. "To him." He unfolded it. Paused. His brow crumpled. "Miss Denise R. Mercer." "Property owner?" Denise didn't move, just looked at him in that same tired, practiced silence she'd used on people like him for 30 years. She waited until his smirk cracked, until his eyes darted up to the elevator panel again, until he realized she hadn't pressed the wrong button. She pressed the door close button. This time it obeyed her. Before sunrise, no one really noticed Denise. They only noticed what she left behind: gleaming marble, spotless glass, trash cans, emptied and reordered like clockwork. By 9 a.m. the lobby buzzed with the usual Monday rituals: coffee cups, lanyards, laughter that was just a little too loud, the kind that dared someone to challenge their belonging. The woman behind the front desk, Tara, didn't even glance up when Denise pushed her cart past. "Back again?" Tara muttered under her breath. Loud enough to be heard, quiet enough to deny. Denise didn't flinch. She'd heard worse. It was always the same. The new hires thought she was someone to avoid. The senior execs smiled at her like charity. And the tenants? They talked about her like she wasn't there, assuming she didn't speak English, or didn't understand business, or didn't matter. Some left their trash on her cart, not even bothering to walk to the bin. But she saw everything, she remembered everything. Because Denise Mercer didn't clean for money anymore. She cleaned for memory. She walked the hallways like a ghost they tried to ignore, the kind that knew all the secrets they whispered behind soundproof glass. The same woman who 30 years ago mopped those halls pregnant and invisible, had signed her first deed 2 floors above their heads, back when the rent was cheap and people laughed at the idea of a black woman buying commercial space. Now, she owned the whole damn building. They just didn't know it yet. "She keeps using the executive elevator," the man whispered sharply, like it was a scandal. "It's not the first time. And did you see her just stand there like she owned the place?" "She's old," another voice offered dismissively. "Probably confused. Might need to retrain the night staff, or put a code on the panel." They were sitting in the glass-walled conference room that overlooked the lobby, floor-to-ceiling panes that made them feel transparent, when really they thought they were untouchable. Denise could see them perfectly. She always could. The room was labeled Executive Strategy Pod, with chrome handles and brushed steel chairs that squeaked like guilt when anyone shifted too hard in them. Through the glass, Denise watched a young blonde woman lean in and speak. "We really need to review who has building access," she said crisply. "It's embarrassing." No one said her name. No one had to. In rooms like that, people like Denise didn't get names. Just glances, huffs. The occasional exaggerated bless her heart when someone wanted to sound polite about being disgusted. Denise didn't stop walking, didn't pause, didn't flinch, didn't even blink. She pushed her cart down the hall with the same quiet grace she'd had since she first stepped into that lobby in 1994, when the floors were scuffed linoleum, And the executive wing was just a room with old Dell desktops and a water cooler that rattled like bad lungs. She had seen this building before it was marble and mirrors, before the glass walls and smart badges. She'd bought it when they laughed. She'd renovated it when they doubted. And she let them rent it when they needed space to pretend they were important. And yet here they were, mocking her with the shine she gave them. On the 4th floor, Denise slowed her cart outside the office of Harold Macklin, one of the loudest tenants, in the building. His name was on the directory in bold serif font, Macklin and Gray Capital Advisors, but Denise knew what the books didn't show. She'd seen the late-night meetings, the missed rent checks, the fake laughter whenever potential investors visited. Harold never greeted her. He walked past like she was air, but he always left a trail, used coffee cups on the floor outside his door, paper towels in the hallway, sometimes even half-eaten bagels resting on windowsills like pigeons might eat them. As Denise emptied the trash outside his office, she caught the sound of his voice again. He was on the phone. "Yeah, we're pushing the renewal with the landlord again. No contact. Some assistant signs the lease papers. We're fine." She smirked. Just barely. That assistant was her lawyer. That lease he was pushing already flagged, but she wasn't going to say anything yet. Not until the time was right. Back in the janitor's closet, which she now called her command center, Denise peeled off her gloves slowly and sat in the creaky plastic chair she refused to replace. On the shelf beside her was a dusty binder, marked 1997 deed transfer, Mercer Holdings LLC. She flipped it open. Page 1, her name. Page 2, the mortgage she paid off 10 years early. Page 3, a spreadsheet she updated every week. Rent received, rent owed. Tenants behind, tenants lying. And Harold? Harold was very behind. She picked up her flip phone, the one they joked about whenever she pulled it out, not knowing it held the contact numbers for lawyers, accountants, and 3 city inspectors on speed dial. She dialed one number. "Jason," she said calmly. "It's Denise. You can move forward on Macklin's file. Send the letter with the 30-day notice, but don't tell him it came from me." She hung up before he could respond. Then she went right back to cleaning, because they still didn't know, and when they finally did, she'd be right there, mop in hand, head held high, watching them choke on the very air she owned. "She's still here?" The words drifted through the corridor like spoiled perfume, sugary and sour at the same time. Denise had paused just behind the conference doors, unnoticed in her silence, adjusting the straps on her utility cart. "Oh, her? The cleaning woman's always lurking around. Weird, right? God, it's like she doesn't know when to leave." It was the 3rd time this week someone had said something like that. Same tone, same assumption. But this time the voice was new. Fresh out of grad school, Prada tote-wearing intern-turned-junior analyst new. Her badge still gleamed with that overconfidence. Her shoes still clicked like applause, because she thought every step earned one. Inside the glass conference room, a digital slide flickered on the screen. Mercer Holdings LLC, property audit. Denise tilted her head. Now that was interesting. "Looks like the owner hasn't responded to the proposed buyout," the younger woman said, flipping to the next slide. "We think they're probably old, unaware, maybe even no longer living." That made the room chuckle. "Might be an estate situation," someone else added, nodding. "Honestly, we could push for eminent domain if we show a lack of upkeep." Denise blinked, slow, deliberate. She looked down at the freshly scrubbed floor they were standing on. No upkeep? Her jaw tightened, but not in anger. In focus. Back in the basement, Denise opened her binder again, the one none of them had ever seen. She flipped to a thin folder labeled Intent to Purchase Offers, 3rd attempt, and pulled out a letter. The company name at the top matched the one on the projector. Eloise Westbrook Development Group. They'd offered to buy the building for less than half its market value, claiming it was too old to justify a competitive return. She'd shredded the first offer, framed the second, and now they were making slides about her. Later that afternoon, Denise waited until the lunch crowd trickled out. Elevator buzz softened. Laptops closed. The sixth floor became quiet again. She moved quickly, not fast but precise. Pushing her cart down the executive wing, she stopped by the glass office labeled Shelby Wright, Lead Counsel, Westbrook. Group Shelby was young, 35 maybe, smart in a way that counted on no one questioning her. The kind who smiled with her teeth and talked with words like synergy and restructure, when what she meant was, get rid of them. Denise knocked on the glass once. Shelby looked up, mildly startled, then gave a tight smile, the kind you give the E. Valet when you think they scratched your car. Hi, can I help you? Denise pulled out an envelope and placed it gently on the edge of the desk. I believe this is for you. Shelby blinked. What is it? Just a response to your presentation earlier. Shelby frowned. I'm sorry, She started, already confused. What presentation? Denise turned to leave, then stopped, turned halfway back, and with a voice calm as morning fog said, I'd suggest you check the deed record before your next meeting. Mercer Holdings never sells out. She didn't wait for a reply, didn't need one. The silence behind her was enough. The next morning the building buzzed with whispers, not gossip this time, not about who was dating who on the 7th floor, or which intern got caught vaping in the stairwell. This buzz was tighter, more nervous. Phones were out, screens were refreshed. Legal pads filled with rushed notes. Denise heard her name for the first time in weeks. Not the cleaning lady, not the older woman with the cart, not her. They were saying Denise Mercer now, softly, like a prayer they were scared to finish. Shelby's office door was closed by 8:03 a.m. Inside, her voice trembled under control. Are you sure? She whispered into her phone. I mean, that can't be right. She has a custodial contract. No, ma'am, the voice on the other end replied. She has the building, full ownership, purchased outright in 2001. No liens, no active debt. Mercer Holdings is a single-owner LLC. She's the principal. Shelby sat back in her chair like the words slapped her. Her eyes darted to the envelope Denise had left the day before, still unopened. She peeled it open now, carefully, like it might explode. Inside was a one-page document, printed on thick, ivory stock. In calm, measured language it read, Dear Miss Wright, thank you for your continued interest in the property at 1817 Crestline Plaza. At this time, Mercer Holdings LLC has no interest in selling or entertaining redevelopment offers. If future presentations are to include my name, my attorneys will expect notice. Best, Denise R. Mercer, owner. Mercer Holdings LLC, Building 1817, floors 1 to 14, owner suite, PH. At the bottom, a handwritten note in blue ink, P.S. That conference room glass? It isn't soundproof. By Thursday, the energy in the building shifted. People started holding doors for her again. Clumsy, sudden, overcompensating kindness. The receptionist, Tara, looked like she'd swallowed a light bulb when Denise approached the front desk. Morning, Miss Mercer, she stammered, smoothing her blazer. Let me buzz you up. Denise raised one eyebrow. Not rude, just steady. Tara froze. No need, Denise said, voice cool and quiet. I know my way. She walked toward the executive elevator, her cart left behind for the first time in weeks. As the doors slid open, 3 suited men already inside stepped awkwardly aside. One of them, Harold Macklin, offered a sheepish nod. She didn't nod back, didn't look at them, just pressed PH with the same gloved hand they used to ignore. And for the first time, they watched her rise. up on the penthouse floor, where the lighting changed from fluorescent to warm oak glow. Denise stepped out into silence. The space was clean, not because someone cleaned it, but because she designed it to be that way. Mahogany trim. Framed photos of her father in his post office uniform, her mother holding a mop in a 1970s headscarf, a photo of herself in front of the building in 2001, holding the keys with trembling hands and tear-glossed cheeks. She sat behind her desk, not to rest, but to review. Because the 30-day notice for Harold was ready, and the redevelopment pitch from Westbrook, already forwarded to her lawyer, for amusement only, and the binder labeled tenants who forgot who pays the light bill. That was getting thicker by the hour. Outside her window, the city buzzed below, unaware that the most powerful person in the building wasn't the loudest, wasn't the richest, wasn't the most visible. She was the one they overlooked, until she wasn't. The email came in at 11:06 a.m. Subject, "Let's connect. Lunch?" From Shelby Wright. To Denise R. Mercer. Hi, Ms. Mercer. I'd love the chance to sit down and discuss our mutual goals for the property at Crestline Plaza. We believe there's a real opportunity for growth and community engagement with the right leadership in place. Let me treat you to lunch. My treat. Just us women off the record. Looking forward to hearing your vision. Warmly, Shelby. Denise stared at the screen for a long time. It wasn't the invitation that made her smirk. It was the phrasing. With the right leadership in place. As if she'd just stumbled into the deed by accident. As if she didn't build this from the ground up, scrub by scrub, lease by lease, tenant by tenant. And now that they knew who she was, they wanted her vision. Funny how quickly invisibility turned into importance. She tapped a single response. Shelby, I'll meet you in the lobby cafe at noon. Don't be late. At exactly 12 p.m., Denise entered the lobby cafe wearing a crisp navy blazer and soft charcoal slacks. No gloves, no cart, no apron, just herself. Shelby stood up too fast when she saw her, nervous in a way that showed in her hands. Ms. Mercer, she smiled tightly. Thank you for coming. I own the place, Denise said simply, sitting down. Why wouldn't I? Shelby cleared her throat. Right, yes, of course. A waiter hovered. Denise ordered tea, plain. Shelby tried to match it but added lemon, as if that would soften the meeting. Shelby leaned in. Listen, I just want to say I didn't know. About everything. I hope there's no hard feelings. Denise tilted her head. Hard. Feelings about what? Shelby faltered. Well, about the offer. The way some of our staff may have spoken, I take full responsibility. We'd love to align with you on a path forward that benefits the tenants and the neighborhood. And you? Shelby blinked. Excuse me? You'd like to benefit too, Denise said, calmly stirring her tea. Don't backpedal now. I sat through your meeting, remember? The one where you joked I might be dead? Shelby flushed. That was taken out of context. Denise took a slow sip, then set the cup down deliberately. I've been ignored in this building since the day I bought it. Called Mum, Honey, Sweetheart, and sometimes not called anything at all. I'm truly sorry. But, now Denise continued, because I chose not to sell and because you finally Googled the wrong cleaning lady, you want collaboration. I think we can help each other. Oh, I've already helped you, Denise said with a slow smile. You've had below-market rent for 2 years. Your account is one of the lowest maintenance. I tolerated you because you were quiet. Until you weren't, Shelby stared. But now you're drawing attention, Denise went on. You're bringing cameras, talking about renovations, changing signage, replacing history with glass walls. Denise leaned forward, voice low. I built this building with the cracks in the brick. I saved it from foreclosure when no one would lend to me. This isn't just real estate, Shelby. This is my father's name in the foundation, my mother's knuckles in the railings, and my whole damn spine in the beams. Shelby's voice cracked. Then, you won't even consider an offer? Denise finished her tea. I am the offer. She stood, pulled her chair in neatly, and turned to leave. At the exit, she looked back once. Oh, and Shelby. Yes? That soundproofing. Still doesn't work. In the corner, at a nearby table, 2 paralegals from another firm had been pretending to scroll their phones the entire time. One whispered, "That's her? She owns the whole place?" The other nodded. "She's the reason we still have an office. Mr. Harkins said she saved them during the pandemic." The first one glanced toward the elevator. She's the one they used to laugh at. Now, they didn't laugh. The memo went out Friday afternoon. Subject, building strategy session, tenants only time. Monday, 9 a.m. Location, 6th floor conference hall. B-note, coffee and light breakfast provided. Building staff not required. Not required. Not invited. That's what they meant. Denise sat in her office, high above the memo senders, and watched the tenant list trickle across her screen. Her name wasn't on it. Her company wasn't either. Not Mercer Holdings LLC. Not the deed owner. Not the one who paid to keep the lights on through 3 recessions and a global pandemic. But every firm that missed rent. Every office that smudged the windows she paid to polish. Every executive who had once stepped over her mop. They were on the list. Plotting, pretending, planning a future she had already outlived. On Monday at 8:57 a.m., the elevator chimed open. On the 6th floor, the room went still. Denise stepped out. No gloves, no cart, no keyring jingling like before. Just a leather-bound notebook under her arm, and a quietness that made the back of every neck straighten. Someone dropped their pen. Tara, the receptionist who used to barely nod in her direction, now scrambled from her seat at the corner coffee table. "Ms. Mercer," she gasped. "I didn't realize you'd be—" "I know," Denise said, walking past her. This meeting is for tenants only." "I'm aware." She opened the door. Dozens of eyes turned. The room went flat with awkward smiles and tight-lipped panic. The Westbrook associates stiffened like mannequins. Shelby sank half an inch into her seat. Harold Macklin blinked like he'd seen a ghost with a court order. Denise didn't say a word. Not yet. She took the empty seat at the end of the long table, the one they'd saved for someone important, the one nobody else had dared to sit in. The building manager, Tom, looked like he might swallow his clipboard. "Oh, Ms. Mercer. I didn't realize we weren't sure you weren't," Denise said calmly, opening her notebook. "But I own the building, and this is my table." Someone at the far end chuckled nervously. No one joined him. Tom cleared his throat. "So, we just wanted to go over some proposed updates to the building infrastructure and the tenant experience, possibly revisiting rent schedules and common space usage." Denise raised one eyebrow. "Are you suggesting a rent increase?" "Well," Tom stammered, "only for tenants not on legacy contracts, just to bring us in line with the area median." Denise flipped to a page in her notebook. "According to your report, Macklin and Gray is 5 months delinquent." Harold's head snapped up. Tom blinked. That may be true, yes." "And Westbrook Consulting," Denise continued. "Their firm currently occupies 3 suites under a 24-month lease with monthly variance fees, but they've reported inflated square footage to underpay on utilities." Shelby's mouth parted, then shut. Like a child caught sneaking gum, Denise closed the notebook softly. "Anyone else want to suggest rent changes?" Silence, only the soft hum of fluorescent lights. Denise stood slowly. "I called this meeting to remind you, all of you, that I'm still here. You don't have to like it. You don't even have to speak to me in the hallways, but you will respect the roof you sit under. I cleaned this place so my daughter could grow up with stability. I sacrificed my knees, my holidays, and my peace so this building could stand." She looked down the table. Her voice never rose. "None of you built it." She turned, heading for the door, and just before she left, she paused again. "Next time, you schedule a meeting in my house." She looked over her shoulder. "Try using my name." By Thursday morning, Denise's name was no longer just whispered in break rooms. It was printed, black ink on cream paper, folded on every lobby table, tucked beside branded mugs in the conference hall, and flashing in bold serif on a local business blog that usually only covered mergers and ribbon cuttings. The cleaning lady who owned the tower, the quiet power of Denise Mercer. By Camille Reyes, staff writer, Crestline Business Journal. It began like this. For 2 decades, Denise Mercer pushed a mop bucket through the halls of 1817 Crestline Plaza. Few knew her name, even fewer knew her story. But Denise didn't need a spotlight. She already owned the stage. Within hours, everyone was reading it, even those who pretended not to. The interns forwarded it with subjects like "Yo, WTF?" The partners read it in secret, lips pressed tight. And Shelby printed it twice. One copy sat folded on her desk. The other was highlighted, annotated, and marked up like a case file, not out of respect but fear. On the 15th floor, in the building Denise had kept alive through storms, through layoffs, through pandemics and profit droughts, she sipped her tea and reread the article calmly. Camille had asked for an interview last week, said she heard whispers of a black woman who owned a corporate high-rise. Denise had agreed, but only under one condition. "Don't make it a rags-to-riches story. I didn't crawl, I climbed." The article honored that. It told of how she'd inherited just $2,000 after her father died, how she'd used it as the first down payment on a broken building nobody wanted, back when the bank manager wouldn't even look her in the eye. It told of how she cleaned every square inch by hand before she ever hired help, of how she signed the final deed in a janitor's closet during her lunch break, her hands still smelling of bleach, but most of all, it told the truth they had all ignored. She didn't become important. She had always been. By 11 a.m., someone had sent flowers. The receptionist claimed they were anonymous, but Denise recognized the handwriting on the card. A junior analyst from the 3rd floor, the one who used to leave candy wrappers on the windowsills. They all wanted to be part of the story now. They smiled bigger, held doors longer. One young man even rushed to press the elevator button for her. "Good morning, Ms. Mercer." He beamed. She gave a polite nod, then pressed PH herself. On the rooftop garden, her sanctuary, her silence, Denise let the sun warm her face. This part of the building was closed to tenants. Few even knew it existed. But she came here when the world below tried to rewrite her. She brought her journal. She brought her mother's picture. She brought nothing that needed to prove anything. Meanwhile, down on the 6th floor, a quiet panic had begun to spread. Harold Macklin was served his final notice. Westbrook's expansion plans were blocked by zoning revisions she'd signed herself. The janitorial staff now wore new uniforms with full benefits. After Denise rewrote their contract, in front of the same board that used to ignore their budget requests, and a brand new plaque had just been mounted in the lobby. In loving honor of William and Cora Mercer, who laid the first brick and whose daughter owns the mall, and still she never raised her voice, because some people scream to be heard and some. They build the floor you're standing on. The following Monday at exactly 9 a.m., the lobby was unusually still. No rushed footsteps, no sharp heels clicking like entitlement, no raised voices demanding double-shot lattes or late courier packages. Instead, there was silence, and then a single slow clap. It started from the far corner. An older tenant, Mr. Johari from the language translation office, the only person who had ever called Denise Ms. Mercer before the article dropped. then another, then a third. By the time Denise stepped through the revolving glass doors, the sound echoed, not loud, but deep, measured, respectful. No one said a word, they just clapped, not because she'd won something, but because they realized she always had. She nodded to the front desk without stopping, walked past a man in a suit who used to call her sweetheart, and now avoided eye contact completely. She made her way toward the elevator, alone, though this time no one dared step in her path. When the doors opened, they revealed a lobby full of fresh prints, a framed copy of the article, a black and white portrait of her parents, and beneath it a quote, "Some women break ceilings, I built the floor." Back in the penthouse, Denise walked the polished oak alone. The windows stretched wide across the skyline. This was the same office they said she didn't deserve, the same one she used to vacuum with her back aching and her pride tucked quiet, under her breath. Now it was filled with sunlight, with strength, with memory. Downstairs, a new receptionist, a young woman with box braids, silver hoops, and eyes that watched everything, took a call. "Mercer Holdings, good morning." "Yes." "We'll pass your proposal along." She looked up, smiled knowingly at the framed plaque behind her. "Actually, sir," she added, "you are speaking to the right building." That night, when the last light clicked off and the city hummed into dusk, Denise returned to her rooftop. Garden with a folding chair, a blanket, and a warm thermos. She looked out over the skyline, quiet and alive. She thought of the mop handle that used to press calluses into her palms, of the days they forgot her name, forgot her worth, forgot she was there. She smiled, because now they would never forget again.